Welcome to Elevenses with Lisa. I am Louise Cooke, and this is the time we kind of get together each week, grab our favorite cuppa, have a conversation about genealogy, and boy, you guys been having a conversation. You've been talking a lot about the video that we did just a few weeks ago, and it was about the king of all screen capturing tools, which is Snagit. That was episode 61, and I heard from a lot of you in the live chat for that episode in the comment section here at the YouTube channel under the video, and also the comment section over at the show notes at the Genealogy Gems website. And you guys really enjoyed it. Everybody was kind of excited about what was going to be possible with this tool, and I received a lot of emails too. So I think that episode that was really kind of a tutorial for beginners on how to use Snagit and specifically how I use it for genealogy, I think it really resonated with you guys because as genealogists, accurately and completely capturing the family history information that we're finding is absolutely essential for really good source documentation. It's one of the most important things that we do as genealogists. So having a tool like this that could help make that process even better and more accurate is fantastic. Even if you're not into genealogy, if you happened across this here at YouTube, you're going to learn an awful lot today about using Snagit for all kinds of things. And for those of us who use it primarily for genealogy, you're going to find yourself using it for all different types of things that you do online. I use it constantly, clipping recipes and pictures, and it's just endless once you see what it's capable of doing. So this is sort of a part 2 to previous episode 61, which is also here at the Genealogy Gems YouTube channel. We're going to dig into some of the more advanced features today. It was so hard to pick which ones I wanted to talk about. But we're going to do that. We're going to also answer some of your questions. We're going to get as much done as we can get done in this hour together. And even if you're not using a snipping tool, if you're not using Snagit, but maybe you're using the snipping tool on your computer, the one that came with your computer, that's okay. Maybe you're still deciding if Snagit's one that you want to use. I think just seeing what the capabilities are in terms of screen capturing and the fine-tuning that you can do, the projects that you can create, the problems that you can solve. I think you're going to be able to use some of these techniques with your own snipping tools. Many of the features they probably won't include, but it will help you decide if that's important to you and if you want to get yourself a copy of Snagit. And if you want to get yourself a copy of Snagit, we have a fantastic exclusive coupon code. They're actually not that easy to come by to get Snagit coupon codes. I did some looking when I first bought mine and I didn't find any, but we have a special one. It is 15% off. And all you have to do is head to the video description for this video here at YouTube. You will find a link. Also, if you're watching over at the genealogygems.com website on episode 66, which is what this one is, then you're also going to find a link there as well. I don't know how long they're going to make the code available to us, but so far it's still good. It's still working. And this is a great opportunity to save some money while you're doing it. You'll notice it when you go to checkout. It's possible it might show the price initially in euros. Don't panic. Go ahead and go through checkout. It's about $50 US. I think it's $49.95. But as you go through checkout and you put in your address, then if you're in the United States, if you're in Canada, Australia, wherever you are, it will convert the currency to your currency so that you can make sure that you're getting the right price. So wonderful. We'll have all those links for you in all the different places that you find us here at Elevenses with Lisa. And speaking of emails, I said you guys were emailing me a lot about episode 61. I got one from Ann W. And she says, I very much enjoyed your recent Elevenses with Lisa episode on how to use Snagit. I love the screen clipper on my Mac, because of course the Mac comes with one, but this does so much more. I used the link to purchase Snagit. Thank you so much. And I found the tutorials very helpful as I figured out how to use it on my Mac with my files. The first thing I did was go back to several newspaper pages. We were talking about newspapers in episode 61. She says, I clipped recently, she had clipped these in chunks. You know how when you go to a really big newspaper page and you have to do it in chunks? We solved that in episode 61. And she says, I used Snagit to capture the whole page. Yes, it worked like magic. I would love to see another episode about the features of Snagit. Thank you very much for your regular and your premium podcast. So she's a premium member. I listen to both regularly. I've learned so much that I can apply to my genealogy research. Sweet. That's what we're looking for. We want to help you have more success in your family history research. I love hearing that. And Snagit is perfect for web clipping those scrolling newspaper pages. I mean, if you've ever tried to capture, download, you know the problems you run into. They're huge, they're blurry. We take care of that in episode 61. So let's get started because this is episode 66 and I've got several great ideas for you. We're going to head over to PowerPoint here and talk about, really I've got kind of 3 core projects. I've got lots of questions lots of answers to your questions. You had a lot of questions before. And the first thing we're going to do here is problem solving. Okay, so we're going to talk about problem solving and specifically how annotating and using styles and using the favorites can help you solve problems as well as just do it more efficiently and get things more the way you want them and do it more quickly, which I think is always key because we never have enough time for what we're doing. So Bill emailed me about a problem that he was having with his ancestry family tree. And he said that some of the ancestors in his tree, particularly when he was looking at the profiles for these ancestors, there were duplications. And not just duplications, but the information was conflicting. And he said the thing was, I didn't put that in there. And I believe you, Bill. So Bill emailed me, which I often get emails from you guys. Feel free to email me, genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com. There's also a contact, it's kind of a tile on the front page of our home page at genealogygems.com. Well, Bill did that, and he said he used Snagit to annotate his clip and be able to show me what the problem was, which that's the first great use for Snagit is being able to really quickly grab things off the screen and mark it up and really be able to show somebody else what the problem is so they can visualize it and they can help you solve the problem. His hope was to reach out to Ancestry, and he said, the first time I wrote them, he ended up getting just kind of what he called boilerplate answers, which I can imagine they probably get a lot of questions and comments. But the more accurately you can describe the issue that you're having and show them that you know what you're doing, probably you'll get a more specific answer, right? The more specific the question, the more specific the answer. So here is the clipping that he sent, and he sent it to me so I could see it, and it helps me. I'm a very visual person, so I really want to be able to see what we're talking about. And in fact, I was reading through his email, which was very detailed, but the picture was worth 1,000 words, let me tell you. So you can see here in the profile for his ancestor named Willie, it shows the birth of these siblings. And one of them was James and one of them was Sally. The problem is he's got James twice. And if you notice, James, the first one, is born in Texas, but the second one, the birthplace is Concho, Texas, USA. So there's just little slight variations. And then Sally is listed here twice as well. So that's a problem. Well, there are several ways to annotate and highlight information. So what we're going to do is I want to show you how to do this. We're in the image mode and we're going to select region because we want to just grab a specific spot on the screen. So we use the crosshairs and we're going to just grab this section. This is what he did for me so that I could see it. But you want to be able to mark it up, right? So there's a couple different ways you could do this. First, if you come to the More menu, here's the line. This is what Bill did. So Bill changed the color to red for his image, and he's in line mode, and he's just drawing lines around the problem. That works. Great. But there's other ways to do it that are some of my favorites. So you can undo. Did you know that? Do Control Z in Snagit, and you can undo anything you did. Don't worry if you made a mistake. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to use highlighter. I love the highlighter tool in the More menu, and you can change this highlighter. It doesn't have to just be yellow. It could be any color you want. So come down to the Tools properties and grab any color that you want, and then just pull and drag. And you're able to highlight so people know exactly why you're paying attention to this image and what part to pay attention to, right? You can change the opacity. You can make it light, dark, whatever you want to do over here in Tool Properties, which is great. Here's the other problem. So we'll also highlight Sally. So that's another option. We could save this image and attach it to an email. Here's the third. We're going to come up to a shape, okay? And we're going to select a rectangle shape. So that's one of the default shapes here. Now, when I draw and make my shape, right, first of all, it's totally opaque, and I don't want that. I really want an outline. So I'm going to make the fill transparent. When you see the checkerboard, you know it's transparent, and the outline's going to be red. And I can change the thickness of that outline. I can make it thinner, thicker, but I like it. It's nice and neat. It's one swoop, and you've covered it versus having to draw all the edges of the lines. So those are 3 quick and easy ways that you can mark up items. And you'll probably find as you're capturing information, particularly for genealogy research, rather than just downloading the image, it could be really helpful to use some of these markup tools, some of these annotation tools, and highlight what's most important. If you've ever looked at a record years down the road that you saved, particularly if you didn't save it in quite the right spot, so you're not even quite sure why you saved it, it takes a lot of reanalyzing, trying to figure out what was it on this record that was important to me, that caught my eye. And being able to do the annotation gives you that chance to really make that visually clear at the moment that you capture it. And I have found that to be extremely helpful in my own genealogy research. I think you will too. All right. Now, when we selected the rectangle, what we really did was we selected a style. So you'll notice over on the right-hand side that there's quick styles. Now, when we changed our rectangle to the transparent center, but just a red outline, I like that. I want to use that on a regular basis. Notice that as soon as I created that and customized it, Snagit created kind of what they call a ghost style. It's faded out. It's got a little plus sign on it. Basically, it's offering up to you, hey, do you want to hang on to this? Is this something that you're going to use on a regular basis? You could add it to your quick styles. Wonderful, because again, anything we can do to speed up the process and our workflow, the better. We could spend more time finding ancestors and less time recreating, borders and that kind of stuff. So if you click the plus sign, this will add this new customized style to your styles list. And you'll notice at the top where it says quick styles, it says theme. Now, I'm in urban theme right now, but there's a basic theme. You can even create your own themes. So if you know you are working on a project and you want everything to have kind of the same look, you can customize your circles and your arrows and your lines and your borders and whatever else you want to make and get them just the right color and just the right sizes and transparencies, and you can put all of that into your own custom style grouping. So I love this. I'm just going to click the plus sign and that adds it to my style. The next thing that Snagit does for me is it puts this little star. And if you click that star on the newly created style, you can add it to your favorites. So there are some annotations and items. It doesn't have to just be annotations. It could be other types of features, and we'll look at some of these like cutting out sections, things that you do regularly, things that you're going up to the toolbar at the top and you're picking certain things and you're doing those things a lot, adding them to your favorites, again, speeds up that workflow. It really puts it in one spot. So if we click the star, then you'll notice at the top in the toolbar, the very first option is favorites. And now with one click to the favorites option, you'll have all your favorite stuff right there waiting for you. I'm almost ashamed to tell you how many years I used Snagit and never used this feature. I don't know what I was thinking. It was just one of those things where you just assume, I'll do that later. Oh, that's probably complicated, whatever. All the reasons why we don't do the things we should be doing. And I just put it off. I just didn't do it. I thought I was going to have to really sit down and dig in and figure out favorites. It's so simple, my friends. The star. Click the star on any item, whether you created it or they created it, and you can toss it into your favorites, and it's one click away. No reason not to start doing it right now. Okay, so favorites is going to speed up your workflow. There it is. It's in the toolbar. And notice that when I click favorites, you can see the styles. I'm using that arrow constantly. I'm using the circle and the outline border with the rectangle. I have a font style I like that is nice and big and highlight. I can have lots and lots of different favorites in here. And I would love to know, are you using the favorites feature? Are you excited to use the favorites feature? Go in the comments section and leave a comment. I'd love to hear how you use it. What's your favorite? Maybe there's a favorite item that you have discovered somewhere in the toolbar that the rest of us should be using. I'd love to have you share that in the comments. So favorites is a must-have over at Snagit. Okay, so what this did for Bill, we're going back to Bill's problem, right, where he's got these duplicates over at Ancestry, is we're able to use a template and create this step-by-step comparison, which helps us in the problem solving. And you'll find that not only does this, creating something like this give the person you're trying to get to help you, it gives them all the information that they need. I find by using these techniques just in my own research, it actually helps me solve problems. It helps me visualize it, helps me get the comparison side by side. It helps me keep a record of the problem that I was trying to solve and how I solved it. Because it's very possible that 5 years from now, something will come up and I'll realize I made a mistake. There's something wrong with this part of the tree. And I want to be able to go back and see how I reached that conclusion. So in documenting your conclusions, Snagit is absolutely your ally. So here you can see that what I did was I kind of went through a little problem-solving process for Bill, and I used a template. Now, if you're kind of excited about this idea of a template, got to go back and check out episode 61 because that's where we talked about templates. I know we'll be talking about those again in the future for additional projects we can share with you. But what we did here was I took different screenshots and I opened each one of these up in a different tab. And you can see that I used the step-by-step where it numbers it 1, 2, 3. So the first one was the original ancestor, Willie. The second screenshot is the first occurrence of James. The third screenshot is the second occurrence of James. And I'm highlighting some of the things that I did to solve this. And I'm going to show you this. Did you know that every single person in your ancestry family tree has a unique number? And so when I was on Willie Sparks' profile, I would look up at the URL and you can see you're at an address, a web page address for this particular profile. And at the end of that, it says person / and there's a very long number because there's a lot of people in the ancestry family trees /facts, which is you're on the facts or the profile page. And actually you're on the facts section, facts tab of the profile page. So this is unique to him. And this got me thinking that if I could look at each of the duplicated siblings, maybe I would discover that the numbers are different. So any homework we can do before we try to rattle the cage of the genealogy website to help us, the better, because this is the kind of question they may ask us as well. So the first thing I did was come down here and click on the first instance of the sibling James. And if you right click on it and open it in a new tab, then you'll have all of these in tabs so that you can have them all open at one time, which is very helpful. So doing that, you'll notice that here is James number 1, his person number. And it's kind of long. It ends in 6764. So what I'm really interested to know is when I open occurrence number 2 of James, am I going to see that same number? So let's come down here and we're going to right click on James, the second one, and open that in a new tab so I can look at that. And here's the number, 6764. Notice what caught my eye about this was, one, now we've identified these are actually exactly the same page. And how is this happening, right? Exactly the same page, but on the facts list for Willie, remember the facts list? It said that this occurrence, his birthplace was Concho, Texas, USA. However, when you go to the facts page, you're right back on the facts for the first one that you clicked, and it just says Texas. So something is hung up in the virtual stratosphere of the family tree over at Ancestry. And this is one more piece of evidence in my book, and this is what I told Bill, as to that this is something hung up in the system with Ancestry. They need to help you fix this. I don't think necessarily that this is something that he is doing. So again, here's a nice little side-by-side. I used the cutout feature at Snagit, and I like to use the jagged version of the cutout because it makes it really clear. Look, you're just looking at a piece of it. I tore this off the page. If you use the straight line, it just kind of knits them together. They look like one page. So this makes it super obvious to anybody looking at it that this is an excerpt from that page, from these 2 pages actually. So the same tree number. Same tree number, same person number. So if you look at this between the slashes right before person, that's the tree number. And it ends in 9024. So I wanted to make sure, as just one more piece of evidence, one, we're looking at exactly the same tree. These links haven't sent me to some other copy of a tree. And 2, am I looking at exactly the same profile? And indeed we are. So we know that there's a problem. I want to show you how to combine clippings like I've been doing in this problem solving exercise. So I've made 3 different clippings, right? I'm going to select each one of them. Now, if you hold the control key or the command key, you can tap each one, right click on them and combine in template. You could also come up to create. We'll do the same thing. We can do an image from template. So either way, we're going to get to the same place. We want to use one of the templates. And we talked about these in our previous episode 61. I'm going to use the custom step-by-steps. This is what I used to send him my little synopsis of what I'd come up with. We can title it. I'm going to call it Ancestry Family Tree. And this is the comparison. We want the number images to be selected so it shows the step-by-step. I can color code that. I can do lots of different format editing. And we can even caption each of our clippings, which is really nice. So not just a title for the item, it's for the document, but we can caption each one of these and say, here's the ancestor, here's sibling number 1, here is sibling number 2, or the duplicate, which is unfortunate for Bill. All right, click combine. Perfect. Look what it did. It gave us each one in order. It numbered them for us. We can notice at the bottom, anytime you're looking at something, if you want to get a closer look, look for the magnifying glass. There's a little zoom tool. I use that all the time. And we can make edits to this. If I don't like the fact that the title came in yellow, I missed that. I want to make it red. I can come back and use tool properties and select the color. So I'm in text mode and I change that to red. I could draw other arrows on here. I could use the highlighting that we talked about, all different types of things. I went to my favorites. I'm going to use my outlining rectangle to really show them. Here's the person numbers. These are the same. This is what I'm looking at. The tree number is the same. And all of this helps Ancestry hopefully figure out what's going on. Here's an arrow. Now, when you click the arrow and just draw it on here, well, that's kind of skinny. We could go back to our tool properties and change that. But notice you have to click to select it. If you make that and then you go, what happened to the tool properties? Go back and click to select the item you're trying to format. We're going to talk about that more in just a minute. That's one of the most common problems that people run into. And I'm going to add a little bit of text here to say, hey guys, this doesn't say Concho. And it said Concho on Willie's. So we know that's one of the indicators of the problem. So how cool to be able to combine clippings. You could see how effective this could be using newspapers that are really long articles, showing step by step. So here you can see what I did was I showed the tree number for Willie in number 1. In number 2, I'm pointing, showing same tree. By the way, here's for sibling number 1, the person number, which corresponds with my 1 and 2 on the clip number 1, showing James twice. And step number 3 shows here's the second occurrence of James, same tree number, same person number. And by the way, that birthplace is not the way it appears on Willie's profile page. So super helpful. Okay, so just to kind of wrap up the problem that we were trying to solve for Bill, here were some of my guesses for him. I can't solve all of it. I really think this is probably going to have to go to Ancestry's court. But my guess is what might have caused this to happen is that at some point Bill may have viewed somebody else's tree, or he might have viewed a hint that included the conflicting information. And for some reason, the system hung on to it. Now, chances are viewing wouldn't be so much of a problem, but if he had at some point maybe attached something and then maybe removed it, and then the removal didn't really take, and now it's stuck swirling around in the family tree online stratosphere. So if he had been looking at some conflicting information, maybe from another user's tree, that could have been the problem. He also may have looked at a hint that had conflicting information. He may have rejected that hint, or he may have attached it and then rejected it. You could see how every time you kind of take an action, you're creating connections. And if you undo, maybe it doesn't really undo. So in any case, it may have kind of gotten stuck. I also asked him to check, are you syncing your tree? Because it's possible that it's not Ancestry's online tree that has the problem. It could be if he has his own tree, and I hope he does, on his own genealogy software, and he has set that up to synchronize with his Ancestry tree, well, then it could be actually resending the same inaccurate duplicate information all the time. That's a very real possibility. So we got to check on our own turf before we go pounding on the door of the genealogy website to try to get some help. So those were all possibilities. If you have an idea for Bill, put that in the comments as well. Maybe this has actually happened to you before. Would love to know. I also made a few suggestions for him. Look through the records that he attached to James Caleb Sparks and see if any of them mentioned Concho. It's very possible if he attached a record that somehow that has done something, even though he didn't think he accepted the information. I still think that there's a problem with that, but he did go through and say initially he didn't see any records that mentioned Concho, Texas. So that's really unusual. Also, I recommended to him that he might try downloading the tree and then creating a second tree by uploading it again. Again, assuming he's not synchronizing a tree that's on his website, on his own computer, that might be circumventing this. If you can download your tree information anytime you want from Ancestry, and you can create multiple trees. So go ahead, and I was suggesting upload it and make another second tree and see what happens. See how it looks and if it's doing the same thing. And if you want information on that, in the show notes, I've got a help page over at Ancestry that talks about how to download your tree and upload and make, trees and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's talk about annotations. We've touched on annotations so far. And I want to talk about how to add them and edit them. Kelly got in touch with me. I think this was through a comment. And she said, oh, I think this might have been Kelly in the chat last time in the previous episode. She says, I would love for you to create a very simple tutorial for adding in arrows and any text in bubbles and boxes. Yeah, I like bubbles and boxes. I have tried to do this and I am missing something. I just love Snagit, but I'm so technically challenged and would love to not become so annoyed when I'm missing the simplest steps. Does that ever happen to you? Do you ever feel that way? Go in the comments. Tell us about it. It's okay. This is your place to share. Okay. So to avoid the headache in Snagit, and this may be true very much for all kinds of software, you got to understand where you are. So I have some hypothesis about what Kelly is running into here and why it gets frustrating, because I've actually run into this myself and I've got some really solid solutions for you. It's all about understanding what you're working on at the moment and what Snagit thinks you're working on. Okay? So before you use your mouse to start drawing boxes, typing text, whatever it is you're going to do, we need to get our bearings in the program. So let's do that. First of all, down the bottom, this is the tray along the bottom of Snagit. Now, notice that the one that's got the blue highlight around it is the image I'm working on. That should be the one that's displayed large on the screen. So first thing, we want to make sure that we know that we've selected the right image that we want to work on. That's pretty easy to do. But this one trips people up, okay? Because when you're hopping from one annotation to the next, sometimes you forget what mode you're in. And the mode is really important. I'm calling it mode. There might be another term for it, whatever you've selected in the toolbar. But if I'm in shape mode or callouts or text or arrows, I can't just jump here and there. I've got to go and tell Snagit which one I want to be in. And it has to, I do that first before I ever start drawing anything with my mouse. And I would recommend that you go over then and, again, before you draw anything, make sure that you've got the selected style that you want. So often I have drawn a rectangle to think, I saw circles over there, but I didn't realize I hadn't actually clicked it. And so here I am drawing rectangles and I really wanted to draw circles. Again, undo is your friend. You can do undo through the edit menu, edit undo. You can also do Control Z and that will undo. So Z like zebra. It works just like it does anywhere else in your computer and it works great. I imagine that would be a Command Z on a Mac. So we want to go ahead and take just half a second, go over there and pick your style so you know which one you're going to create. And again, before you start creating and using your mouse, what color do you want it? Because it's always going to be the last color that you used. And you're going to save yourself headache of having to undo and recolor by going and just pre-selecting it before you start your drawing. So just being aware of those kind of 4 areas, the image, the mode that you're in, the style that you're using, and what color, what thickness of line, what are the formatting things that you want. Now, here's where you probably run into some challenges. You've got to click on the item. Let's say you've already created an arrow or a rectangle, and you'll find that it'll be deselected typically. You need to select it. You got to click on it until you see this selection handle icon. I actually made this little image using Snagit. It's funny, I'm using Snagit so much more. I hardly ever use Adobe Photoshop Essentials anymore. I used to go into Publisher. When I needed to kind of create a graphic of some type or a little clip art or a little icon, I would go into Publisher and mess around and group the item and save it. I'm doing it all in Snagit now. And I love that. If I'm going to work this hard to really learn a program, hey, the more we can use it for, the more often we're using it, the more practice we're getting, the better you're going to get at it. Somebody was saying in the chat, oh, I got Snagit. I'm so excited. I got to make time to. That's the thing. You got to just use it for everything. Try using it for everything and you might be really happy surprised. Plus, you're going to get lots of practice time, which is the key. So you're looking for clicking on the item and getting that selection handle. So you really got a hold of it. So let's do some annotating so you can see what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to come up here to File, Open. I'm going to grab this map, and you can do that. You can take any image that's already on your computer and bring it in to Snagit and work on it. So I want to add, as Kelly called it, the bubble, the text bubble, conversation bubble here. But I'm going to try to point out, let's say, this street. This is what we're focused on here. So I love that. Now notice there's the handle. See the handle? I've got it selected and I'm typing in text. This particular bubble had an A on it, which meant you could put text in it. So we can type in there and have text. Right now, this is what I'm working on. It is selected. If you highlight the text, now you can change it. Sometimes people will see the menu and they'll start trying to change the size or the font or make it bold, and it's not working. You have to highlight the text and then it will do it. You can also come down to Tool Properties, and while it's highlighted, again, we have to tell Snagit, what are we formatting? Got to highlight it to show it. I have a little typo in there. I need to get my T under street. Okay. Now see, it's unhighlighted. I deselected, but you have to click and select it in order to drag it, move it, make it a different size. I want to make it skinny here. And we see that handle when we hover over it. So right now it's not selected. I'm going to go back up to Shape Mode, pick a new shape over here in my styles. Now it's black. I'm going to draw it here. And I think, oh, well, I think I'd like it to blend in better with the map. So click on it. So now see, click here. I see the handle. Now you got the dots around the edge. Now I can come and take my color picker and I could pick the background color of my map. So it just kind of blends in. It's a little more in the background. And again, see the handle? When I click on it, I can see dots all the way around it. Got that little selector handle, and now I can move it. When you're here, I'm going to put text on it. So I'm in text mode, and it's blinking because that's what this one is, so I can be able to type anything that I want. Maybe I'm going to create a key for this map or a title for this map. So when you download maps, and this would be interesting, when you've got maps already on your computer, you might want to be able to go back and put a little more information about specifically why you saved it, right? That's kind of nice. Make it your map. Make it your source. So here's my quick styles. I can change the style. I also have the menu here, but again, my text must be highlighted in order for it to respond to the formatting that I'm giving it. When I get my cursor with the line that's kind of blinking, we're going to click on it next to the text so that we can get that cursor and keep typing. If I were to type when it was highlighted, you know what would happen, right? It would replace the text. So the key here, and to avoid the frustration, is make sure you've got your handle, that you've clicked to select what it is you're working on, that you're aware of what you've selected here, and you see the dots around the edge of it. If it's text, it must be highlighted. It can't just be selected. And as much formatting and style picking as you can do before you get started, the better. So kind of neat. Here's an arrow. We might want to put an arrow and say, here's their house. Now again, look, I didn't take the time to set my formatting before I did it. So yes, I did it, but I have to re-click on it to select it. I did draw it. It was the last thing I did, but you still have to click on it to select it to get those white little circles. And then you've got the handle. And now anything I do in my formatting and my tools, my tool properties, is going to affect that arrow that I selected. I hope this helps, because I would say this is probably the number one thing that people get a little confused about, and it's probably the thing I fully admit I struggled with the most. It took me a while to realize I need to be deliberate about how I'm communicating with Snagit about what I'm trying to accomplish, so we're working together. And you got to tell it what's the text, what's the item. You got to do that selecting. All right. hey, if you like that, head down to the comments and tell us if that is something that you have struggled with and any other tips that you have, things that maybe have helped you along the way. Or if you have a question, if you're in the live chat here today, you could put question in capital letters. I'm going to try my best. I'm not sure how much time we'll have, but I will go back and answer them. I can put those in the show notes. The show notes are available as well over at genealogygems.com/Elevenses, and you click on episode 66, and that takes you to the show notes. Okay, let's talk about capturing unique sources. And when we're out doing our genealogy research, we find all kinds of unusual things. And many of them are very straightforward. It's a census record, it's a birth record, whatever it is. We download it, we file it to the right place on our computer so we know who it belongs to, we give it a title. Great. But there's some unusual items that we're coming across more and more these days as so many people are working on family history. And I want to show you just a couple of ideas on how to more effectively perhaps capture some of these unique sources. So one of the examples, and the thing that kind of gave me the idea of sharing this with you, was I was over at Ancestry the other day and I was looking through my hints. Now, as you know, there's record hints, there's tree hints, there's photo hints, and I always beeline straight to the photo hints. So when you're looking at photo hints, a lot of times you're looking at photographs. That's what you would expect, right? But sometimes, are you as annoyed as I am that people like upload coat of arms and they'll upload stuff that's not a hint? It's a flag or something. It's like, I get it. You know what country your ancestor is from, but it clogs up hints. Have I got an amen out there that clogs up the hints when you see all those items? Okay, so, but there's other kinds of things I see too. And one of the things I found recently was, it was actually a screenshot. Maybe somebody used Snagit to do this. They took a screenshot over at a Facebook group. And I can see why they did it. The posting over at Facebook wasn't something that they could just right click and download the posting. So they wanted to grab it. And it had a photograph. It had this text. And when I pulled it up, I'm looking at like this on my screen. So I could just capture it. But what I did was, this was actually something I had screen printed previously on my computer. So when I did print screen on my computer, it took the whole screen, right? So I've got a lot of stuff here. And actually, there is information on the right-hand side that's not really part of the technical hint that I'm interested in perhaps keeping attached to this hint. Even if I had decided, if I just found it, yesterday and I had used Snagit to make this capture, I think I would have captured the whole screen because it shows which tree it came from, who else, how many people have saved it, the date it was uploaded, that kind of stuff. So that would be interesting to have. But you end up with this big black spot in the middle, which doesn't have any information. I've got stuff over on the right-hand side in the cream area that isn't really that particularly helpful. I'd like to clean this up a little bit. So first thing I'm going to do is if I had already saved this to my computer as a print screen, I would go to File, Open, and I would load it into Snagit. If I captured it with Snagit, of course, it would already be there. So now that we have it, I'm going to go to More up in the toolbar at the top. And I love we could just spend hours talking about all the features that are there, but we're going to use the cutout feature. This is something I am using more and more and more, and I think you're going to like what this can do. See this area here? Now, you can't see it very well, so I put the red dotted line around it, but there's actually a white dotted line. That's what this cutout feature tool will do. That's what it creates. So I selected this middle section that doesn't have any information to get rid of it. So by dragging with my mouse, and you can look for a second over in Quick Styles in the upper right-hand corner, you see I'm in cutout mode. I'm not in the tear mode. There's a lot of different versions here. I have the nice straight cut mode. That's the one that I'm using because I want it to look seamless. When I press enter on my keyboard, boom, it's gone. It's nice and clean. Notice though, I'm still in cutout mode. And when we talked about what Kelly's frustrations were with using, Snagit and trying and getting a little turned around, sometimes we're still in that mode. How do you get out of that mode? I don't want that following me around as I'm trying to move my mouse, and you'll know what I'm talking about when you do this. If you move your mouse, you'll see that line and you're like, oh, I don't want to mistakenly cut something else out. So if you're still in cutout mode, if you press the Alt key on your keyboard, it will release that and get you back to your mouse pointer. You're welcome. That is one of the things, it's not obvious. I had to dig around to figure it out, but it works great. And I tell you, that has driven me crazy for a long time. So you're welcome to me too. I'm thrilled that I can press Alt and it will let go and it will put me back in pointer mode for my mouse. So pressing Alt, there's another way to do this too. And this is what I used to do a lot before I kind of discovered the Alt key was I would go up and I would just click on arrow or something else that was not as invasive as the cutout feature. So here we've got a nice, clean, trimmed item. And here, if I was still in that cutout mode, notice that I can go up and I could also click the arrow and that would put my pointer back in kind of arrow mode. Now, obviously, if I drew on the screen, I would draw an arrow, but it's not as invasive as that dotted line bouncing around as you're moving your mouse. And if you do this, you'll know what I'm talking about. So that will release the cutout mode as well. Okay, so tidying it up. Let's see what else we could do to tidy. I mean, you might as well take a moment while it's in front of you before you save it to your computer. Now, one of the ways you could tidy up is you could use eraser mode. So if I come up here, now notice it erased, but it kind of changed the color. It made it a little messy looking. Eraser is not typically my favorite mode to be in. I go to select, and let's select, you can tell Snagit what area do I want to work on. It's this area right here. Now it's selected. What do I want to do to it? Well, if I right click, I could select delete, and that would cut it out. I could also probably press delete on my keyboard. That's nice and neat. It's not exactly the same color in the background, but that doesn't matter, but that's a really quick way to do it. Another thing you could do, take a shape. And let's draw a shape over that section. Now I didn't format my shape before I did it, so it took the last mustard color I used. I'm going to come back. Remember, we got to select it. Notice it wasn't fully selected. That's your key. Now when I use my picker, I can just change it to the same color. It's all gone. So particularly if you're going to do a presentation, if you want to share it somewhere else and you don't want to have other people's names or whatever information on there, this comes out of a public tree. This person's already put this out here publicly, but you can alter it all you want with those kinds of features using the eraser, the selection tool, or that shape tool. And again, remember, notice that I had to go back and click it once because I had not formatted it to the color that I wanted in order to select it to then format it. I hope you enjoyed those. Let's get to some of your most pressing questions. These came to me from the last session, and I think we've got some answers for you here. Pat asked me, will OCR work for non-English newspapers? So we talked about in episode 61 that you could use grab text. That's the grab text feature. And Snagit doesn't translate text, but the OCR will grab non-text language. And then you can copy and you can paste it into a tool like Google Translate. So you can still use grab text. The one thing I found was that sometimes if the print, like if it's handwriting or if it's a really elaborate or ornate type of font, it might have trouble with it. But for your standard fonts that you're going to find online, it's going to work great. And then you could copy and paste it into Google Translate and get that translation. Here's a question. I don't see Evernote on the list. How easy is it to save to Evernote? It's super easy and it's really cool. So if you have Evernote installed on your computer, I think you should see it there in the list. Look again because I think you'll find Evernote's in the list. You can also download Evernote to add it as a share destination. And there are share destinations where you can automatically have it send and save your item to another destination. I use it all the time with PowerPoint. So as I'm putting this together, I'm clipping things, I'm just sending over to PowerPoint and it drops it in my slide. In fact, there are lots of programs that you can do that. So in the show notes, I have a link for you that takes you to the Snagit website where you can download shared destinations. But I do want to show you a really quick trick. So the capture tool, you're sitting on a web page and you click the Snagit capture tool in your taskbar. And so I've opened it up. Notice in the bottom, now I've got layers here, but ignore where I opened things up and see over here on the left where the arrow is preset. Click the plus sign. Now you'll get the pop-up window and you're going to look at the share option, which has a kind of a drop up menu. So under share, I'm going to click the arrow and it gives me Evernote as an option. What we're doing is we are presetting, creating, in a sense, a favorite way to clip. So we're telling it I want it to always clip regions, and I always want it to go to Evernote, and I always want it to put a copy on my clipboard, whatever features you want. I want it to capture the cursor when I do this. So you can set all of these and save them as a preset. So then when you're doing clipping and you want these things to go straight to Evernote, as you're clipping, it's automatically happening. Once you've set everything here in the preset the way you want it, click Save Preset. Oh my gosh, you're going to save so much time. Your workflow is going to be amazing. All right, Cindy asks, are all these features in the older versions? And the answer is no, they're not. Like all software, each version, of course, has new and improved features. Templates is a very new feature. So one of the cool things, though, is that when you purchase Snagit, you'll probably notice they'll offer you the option of a maintenance plan. So it'll say, hey, you're gonna automatically, for a few dollars more, get the next however many versions of Snagit. And I tell you, they keep coming up with amazing things that it can do. So you might want to look at that upgrade on the maintenance feature. Another question here. Curious about printing. If you print a long article, will it print out readable? Well, it will. That's the beauty of it. Because as you're capturing, you can capture at such higher resolution. You can set a different resolution before you do your capturing to make sure it's nice and large. You can go back and change the resolution to be much larger. And you can use print preview before you print to make any adjustments so that it prints exactly the way you want it to. So I have been really pleased with the printing capabilities of Snagit. It's been terrific. CA says, if I bring a photo into Snagit and I work with it, will it save in Snagit, not in my original placement? So I would have to save or move to the folder it was to begin with my changes. Yes, so if I understand you correctly, what it does is initially it captures it and saves it in Snagit. It's actually a snag, I think it's .snag or something like that, file rather than a JPEG. So that's what's in your library. That's what's in your system tray at the bottom of Snagit. It's in Snagit mode. When you've made your changes, you've done whatever you want to it, you can do File Save, and then you can save it to any destination on your computer as any type of file. So you could change it to a JPEG or a PNG. When I'm doing a photo, I tend to do it to JPEG. If I'm doing a graphic, like my little selector handle, typically that's best done in a PNG, .png. So you can select the type of file that it's going to be and where you want to save it to on your computer. So it's not going to overwrite the original photograph. All you did was upload a copy of it into Snagit, and then you can save it back out and you can rename it or whatever to keep it nice and safe. So File Save As is the way to do that. And how do we keep the Snagit program up to date? It sounds as if other viewers here are saying they purchased the program a few years ago and they might be outdated. Is there a way to keep it up to date? Yes, you can buy the updated version and then get that maintenance program so that you get the ones coming after it to make sure it stays up to date. And you can do all that. And I believe you can still use our coupon code but I think it's when you're buying the whole thing. If you just bought a maintenance plan, I don't think the coupon code will work. And I would use it soon if you want to, because I'm not sure how long they'll let us have it, but we're so grateful that they did. and the coupon code is Genealogy 15. So the maintenance plan is really the best way to go. That's what I have. And I love that when the new version comes out, I get all the bells and whistles first thing. Barbara asks, for 2 different laptops, would we need to purchase Snagit twice? Great question. And no, you don't, because TechSmith is licensed per user. TechSmith is the company that makes Snagit, so you can put it on 2 computers. So this could be your home computer, your work computer, whatever. So it's a license for an individual person for 2 devices. So that's really nice. So that's it, my friends. Snagit is definitely full of advanced clipping tools. I'm sure we'll be talking about it again in future episodes. And be sure and head to genealogygems.com/Elevenses. Click on episode 66. That's where you're going to get the show notes. And they're all typed up on the webpage. And of course, the advertising there helps us keep the website lights open and on. So if you become a premium member, then you get the downloadable ad-free show notes cheat sheet. And that is everything step by step, nice and clean, super easy, very searchable because it's a PDF. And that's just one of the benefits. Also, past episodes of this show eventually go into the premium archive, and they're available exclusively to premium members in addition to the premium podcast and the classes that I teach. As I teach about genealogy at conferences and seminars around the world, we record tons of them, and there's a whole catalog there for you as well. So let me jump back here. Oh, see, there's my black screen. Let's see if I get to the right spot here. Here we go. Hi, I hope you guys are having a great time. I hope that you heard something today that you are excited about using. Let's see here. Carol has a question. Since I installed Snagit, when I tried to type a question mark. Yes, it's probably your hotkeys are messed up. And I would do a quick search on Snagit hotkey and see what she's saying is she's pressing Shift and a question mark on her keyboard trying to type in another program, and you end up with Snagit opening or doing something else. In a future video, we're going to actually get into hotkeys because that's a whole nother area. But again, it's something that just can supercharge your workflow. And you can set that up if you like those keystrokes to be able to quickly do repetitive things. It sounds like, Carol, that you've got a hotkey set up that you can just take off, and that should release it. Oh, great. Well, I can't believe it's already noon. It's been an hour, but it's been wonderful to be here with you today. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a blessed week with all those that you love, and I will look forward to seeing you here again next week at 11 o'clock at Elevenses with Lisa. Have a wonderful day. Bye.